So I'm getting ready to do a few mods on the deck here, and this is a pretty fresh Steam Deck. I've never had this one open. Had it since pretty much the first pre-orders. So, and I haven't really done anything to it. So I'm getting ready to pretty much go all out. Um, got a Deck HD here. Now this was kind of a thing because I didn't realize that that company's kind of got some issues right now. Doesn't seem like they answer emails or even fulfill the order. So I placed an order for one and I wound up having to cancel it, and I wound up getting this one off of eBay, and it was brand new in box, so hopefully that one should be good. And another interesting thing I'm about to do, this is just the top piece of one of those extreme rate shells, and I've never seen anybody use this color before, but I kind of liked it. But this bottom piece is an all aluminum piece. You can get these off of AliExpress, and they're not cheap, but I figured I'm pretty much doing everything else, so I might as well just give this a try, because this is another thing I've never seen anybody use. So it did a little test fit. I put them together, and seems to work out pretty good. They're really, color's pretty good. I mean, the bottom piece is a little bit more pink than the top, but it's really not too bad. Overall, I think it's going to be a pretty good color. But yeah, I just wanted to try this because I saw a lot of people do thermal mods to the Steam Deck, and I wasn't really a fan of any of them, to be honest with you, because it just kind of seemed like, well, either you're putting a big cooler inside the case with no real airflow and no surface area on it, and that doesn't really help anything, or they stick a chunk of metal right here and then cover it with plastic, and again, it's not really a lot of surface area, so it's not really, there's not, I mean, you can either put a big chunk of copper or aluminum or some kind of thermal mass right on top of the CPU, but if you can't move air over it, you're not really doing anything. So with a full aluminum backplate, it's just like, pretty much just like an aluminum laptop. A lot of lower power aluminum laptops don't even have fans, and so I want to try this out, see how it goes. I mean, I'm a big fan of aluminum cases anyway, so it's kind of a shame I couldn't get the top part, but it doesn't seem like anybody makes it. But yeah, I think this is going to work out. I'm going to try it. Doing some sticks too. Also doing the 32 gig RAM mod. And if I feel like it, I'll be doing the Wi-Fi 6 mod. And this, I really it's cheap. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't bother. I don't do that much stuff on the internet with the deck, and what I do, it's whatever the original model is, probably fine. Yeah, I picked up this this little work platform from AliExpress, and these are pretty good. It's like, or I'm sorry, not AliExpress. I picked this up from I think it was Tindy, a little Tindy store I found, and I seen these on eBay too, but I never saw the ones with plastic. It's like a hard plastic on the bottom, and it's got the soft plastic on the top, and this is all 3D printed, so I mean, it's pretty easy to find on Tindy. I wasn't even looking for it, and I just came across it and figured, wow, that'd be great to, because you don't want your sticks banging on the table. But yeah, I figured I'd just make a little video doing this, because I usually enjoy watching these kind of videos, with some technical work on the deck. So I figured, why not make a video, throw it up on YouTube. So let me get started with this. So I didn't really take a lot of video of the whole thing, because I'm just using my cell phone here, and I really didn't want to have to juggle that around. So I just took a few pictures, and I figured I'd kind of explain them. You can find plenty of Steam Deck teardowns on YouTube. You can find plenty of videos of BGA soldering. So, I figured this would probably just be enough to kind of give an idea what I did. So, right here you have the Steam Deck motherboard on the preheater. Now this is the LCD Steam Deck. As far as I know right now, you cannot really get a hold of 32 gigabyte RAM modules for a OLED deck. So the LCD is the only one you can really do this for. So here I just got the RAM modules covered in some flux on the preheater, about to get desoldered. And here you can see the chips have been removed. Still waiting for the solder to get cleaned up. Now here's something you kind of run into sometimes. If you look where I circled, there's a little bit of solder mask that chipped off. For whatever reason, solder mask always seems to be a little bit weak underneath BGA chips. So this here, it looks like the two pads are actually connected together, so it might not have caused the problem, but better safe than sorry. So the fix for that is just to dab a little bit of UV solder mask on there, and then hit it with the UV light, give it a little bit of heat, and that'll be that. And here you can see I got all the chips soldered on and a little bit cleaned up. There's another picture of the RAM modules. You can see the numbers. If you want to order them, they're about 12 bucks a piece on AliExpress, and I can verify the ones that I did purchase are perfectly fine. Now, I didn't wind up doing the Wi-Fi 6 mod today. I just didn't feel like it. So, but one thing I wanted to mention is you can probably find the Wi-Fi 6 modules on like Mauser or something like that. I believe if you look hard enough, you can find all the numbers and get them. I didn't really want to deal with that. I know there's some Wi-Fi cards, like I shown, that you can actually pull the modules off of. And this is actually the second PCIe card that I purchased. The first one I purchased didn't have an actual module underneath the can. It just had a chip. So if you see what I have marked in that red box there, you can see these two traces. Now, if you're looking for an off-the-shelf Wi-Fi card to steal the module out of, you need to look at it, look at the pictures of it, and see that it has these two traces that look exactly like that going to the antennas. Because this module is the one that'll have the can underneath it, and when you pull the can off, you'll see that module. Now, if you get the wrong module, you'll just see chips and some surface mount components, and you really won't be able to do anything with it. It's that module that's soldered to the board that you'll swap out with the one on the deck. So this is about as far as I got with this today. I didn't really feel like messing with it. Now, I will say this can be kind of tricky because you're desoldering a module that has a PCB on it from another PCB, and there's surface mount components underneath the can, and the can itself is also soldered. So when you go to desolder this, you're basically loosening up everything. So if you make like kind of a wrong move with it, you're gonna knock all the components off the module rather than just taking the module off the PCB. So you have to be really careful when you do this. So here's my Steam Deck all assembled again. Got the JS aux plastic front and the aluminum rear shell from AliExpress, and this fits together pretty much perfectly. Now, on the left and probably the right trigger, I forget, I did have to sand a little bit on the inside edge where it meets the triggers, because it was rubbing. This was really easy to do, and you can't even notice it because it's right along the inside. I didn't really take pictures of it, but it's just something to be aware of. But overall, it fits together real nice, and no real complaints with it. So I wound up picking up one of these little these HDMI capture devices from Amazon. This is pretty cheap. It's like $30, and I had seen somebody talking about this on the Discord, and they couldn't get the audio working, and was trying to explain it, and it just wasn't working out. But I use Linux on all my PCs, including the PC that I use to capture over the USB 3 port, and it worked perfectly fine. You just, as you'd expect, it has a couple of audio devices, and you just have to select the right one. So here I'm running a Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark, and as you can see, all the settings I'm using here, I'm basically cranking it up. And the whole point here is just I want to try to get it to use more RAM, combined RAM, VRAM and system RAM, than 16 gigabytes. Just to sort of prove that there's a possible use for even doing the 32 gigabyte mod. Now, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is one of the few games that I have that actually has a built-in benchmark, and it worked fine for this. So I basically cranked it up. I'm also trying to kick the heat up on the system, so I can see exactly how that backplate does. So the thing to note here is that obviously the GPU on the Steam Deck isn't all that powerful, and my Steam Deck's not overclocked at all. But the thing to note here is that even though the frame rate or the FPS is low, the frame times are pretty good. It's really consistent and it's smooth for what it is. So you can see there it's using almost it's using over 18 gigabytes of RAM. Combined VRAM and RAM. And by the way, this is a 1080p benchmark. Deck HD screen is 1200p. It's 1920 by 1200. And I was capturing this to an external device, and it'd be easier to show it if it's 16 by 9. So I captured at 1080p, so it's relatively close, but it's well over the 800p of the stock Steam Deck screen. So that's why it's a lot more demanding than a lot of the benchmarks you'd probably see for the Steam Deck. There's always some sort of misunderstood thought that allocating the RAM and the VRAM and the BIOS really has like some kind of major effect. You're not giving it more VRAM. VRAM is allocated dynamically. As you can see here, it's at almost 7 gigs. So when you go into the BIOS, you can set it up to like 4 gigs allocated VRAM. That just means that the system can't use it as RAM. It's basically reserving it as VRAM. But if your system needs to use more VRAM and it's available, it'll use more VRAM. I'm not sure. Maybe there's an internal limit on the system when it's, when you only have 16 gigabytes. But as you can see here, without doing anything in the BIOS, it will give up, 7-8 gigs of VRAM. As you can see here, it's combined RAM's about 16 0.3 gigs. It's over what you're going to use on, what you even have available on a stock Steam Deck. You can see my temps are at 76 degrees, 100% GPU. I don't know how that compares with, other cooling mods. I know 77 degrees isn't anything I'd write home about when you're basically maxing everything out. Now, obviously, I can't max out the CPU because the GPU is bound. But, with the aluminum rear shell, it gets warm, but it doesn't get hot. Like when you're holding it on the left, on your right hand, it gets a little warm in your right hand. But because the CPU and the motherboard, it's closer to the right. The left hand, you don't feel it at all. So I mean, I can't say that it bothered me, but if it did, I would just get like they make like those stick-on grips and stuff. You can just kind of cover the right side, hand grip where you grip the Steam Deck, and probably wouldn't bother you at all. So I was kind of thinking that I might actually offer the 32 gigabyte RAM mod upgrade as a service. Not sure how many people are interested in it. I know there's a few people that already do it. I've seen some prices on the internet and they seemed kind of crazy, so that might deter some people from actually doing it. So I don't run like a mod shop or a repair shop. I do a lot of electronics, but not really, I'm not really in the mail-in too much. But I figured if, I could get like a few, maybe 5 or so at a time, I could just take them all in, do them. And, to be honest, really the thing that bothers me is shipping. Like, I don't want to have to run to the shipping office every other day. So, just if anybody's interested, I'll leave a link to my email below, and you can get in touch with me. And if there's a few people that want it done, I can get them all together, send them in, and I'll take care of it. So another thing I've been working on is an OLED upgrade for the LCD version of the Steam Deck. So there's a common misconception on the internet that the reason that Valve changed the motherboard is because they had to do all that to run an OLED, because OLEDs are, require some kind of special something. And it's not really the case. LCDs are actually more difficult to run. They require, they have a backlight, so they require a backlight boost circuit. And OLEDs don't have that problem because OLEDs don't have backlights. So electrically, it's not really that big of a deal. The main problem is that Valve used a 16 by 10 LCD panel. And I believe that the only reason that they changed the motherboard for the OLED model in regards to the display is to accommodate the only 16 by 10 OLED panel that they could actually find. 16 by 10 OLED panels are extremely difficult to find in the 7-inch range anyway. So I'm using a 1080p 16 by 9 panel. And as you can see here in this rendering that I mocked up, made a couple 3D models because I had to send these to the manufacturer, so they knew what they were doing. And you can see it's vertically it's smaller, horizontally it's longer, and the active area is actually almost exactly the same. So that's modern games that a lot of them can't actually run 16 by 10. It's actually more convenient. There's some cases like maybe some retro gaming that a 16 by 10 display is a little bit better because you get a little bit more vertical space. But the problem with these small MIPI displays is that they never put the connectors in the same spot. Like there's no standard anything. So, you know, I had to design a custom FPZ cable that rerouted the exit through the hole, even though the connector's not in the right spot. And this really isn't a huge inconvenience. The only inconvenience is that when you first put the LCD panel in, you have to fish the cable through. You have to take the motherboard out, which is pretty simple. And then after that, it doesn't really affect anything when you're, like, if you had to pull the motherboard out again, because the motherboard end of the FPC cable doesn't, it's still in the same spot. So it only really affects when you change the LCD itself, or I'm sorry, the OLED in this case. And you know, that's I've sent, you know, the designs to a manufacturer, and they're currently making me a couple of samples. So a couple weeks I should get those and do some testing. And I'm not really concerned about anything electrically. The biggest problem I'm going to run into is stuff with the BIOS, because like for the deck HD, the BIOS needed to be changed, and then there may be some DRM issues, and it's a lot of stuff that I won't really know until I get a hold of them. But electrically, I don't think it's going to be a problem, and I've already invested the time and money into doing it, so, you know, I'm kind of into it, so it's a thing. So yeah, I'm not really a code guy myself, so I'm sort of looking around for a little bit of help as far as, you know, drivers and stuff like that are concerned in the BIOS. But either way, I'll hopefully get that figured out. So that'll be it for this, and I hope that was a little bit informative anyway. So thanks for watching.